So, last night, I had a dream about the future.
Acorda.
That in the future, Star Trek, the perennial sci-fi flagship franchise, would finally come back to the small screen.
Acorda.
New characters, new starships,
Acorda.
new situations, and new opportunities to explore the human condition.
Acorda.
That future is now, 2017. Although it isn't exactly like any of us imagined. Instead of returning to the small screen, Star Trek Discovery, the newest installment to the franchise, debuted on a new streaming service, CBS All Access. I guess that means Star Trek has returned to many small screens? So much for predicting the future. First impressions mean a lot, and this is something Star Trek has been lukewarm about in the past. Most Trek pilot episodes have been clunky, awkward, loaded down with exposition, and sometimes featuring slow pacing and wooden performances. We forgive these relatively weak beginnings because we understand that you have to set up the story and the characters, and that this can be a special problem in science fiction. However, Discovery's opening 2 episodes, which combined are very much just a prologue for the whole Discovery story, were very strong, perhaps the strongest of any Star Trek opener to date. However, it was also very different. Usually in a Star Trek pilot, we are introduced from the beginning to all the main characters and the ship or station that will be home base for the entire series. The stories in these Star Trek pilots are usually complete stories, setting up the main characters for challenges that are usually resolved by the closing credits. But not for Discovery. Star Trek Discovery, in its first 2 opening episodes, has yet to introduce all its main characters or indeed show us even a single frame of the starship that is the namesake of the series. The story in these episodes didn't really conclude by the end credits. And that's okay, because Discovery will be structured differently than much of previous Trek. In the vein of Deep Space Nine and the 3rd season of Enterprise, Discovery is going to be a serialized story. Perhaps much more intensely so than anything Trek has done before. This is very much a hallmark of our time. Much of modern television is also structured this way. Gone is the need to build stories so that a show can play out of sequential episodic order in syndicated reruns. Star Trek has a deep history of being exactly that kind of show. Long-form, serialized storytelling is part of the joy of watching television in this age. And not since the Battlestar Galactica remake of 2004 have we had a sci-fi series of this form and caliber to obsess over. Star Trek was there at the birth of modern geek fandom, and now when all things in geek subculture are openly and positively celebrated, Star Trek has returned. This can only be a good thing. There is a lot to love about the 2 Discovery opening episodes. For starters, it's the most cinematic Trek series ever. Beautifully shot with brilliant lighting, fantastic real-life sets, practical props, and some stunning location shooting, Discovery presents us with the richest imagery in the Trek franchise so far. Even the computer-generated effects are strongly compelling. The actual Battle of the Binary Stars, for example, is quite a visual treat. And the performances are top-notch. Michael Burnham, played by Sonequa Martin Green, is captivating to watch. She is a smart, capable woman of action with a touch of naivete. Philippa Georgiou, played by Michelle Yeoh, shows us what a great leader looks like. She is kind of my favorite captain right now. From the very beginning, we pass the Bechdel test, no doubt a natural consequence of having written engaging female characters with a history of working well together. Overall, the show looks good and feels good on screen. But the heart and soul of Star Trek, the philosophy and moral exploration found throughout the franchise, is it there? Does Discovery have it? I believe that yes, it's there. There are lots of good ideas on display and being discussed by characters in the show, ideas that have been present throughout the Star Trek franchise. For example, in discussing what to do about a looming Klingon threat, Georgiou and Burnham propose arguments polarizing around Starfleet ethics and then logic, both producing good, even ironic possibilities. No answer is obviously right for the moment they're in. However, the principles of Starfleet and the Federation are very much at the forefront of characters' minds. One theme that Discovery touches on strongly is that relating to an outsider finding themselves in a world that isn't quite theirs. Michael Burnham is human, but raised and schooled by Vulcans. For her, the human world is an alien one that she is apparently still learning to navigate by the time we are introduced to her on the USS Sinjo. This is not unlike other characters that Star Trek has produced over the years. Most especially, Burnham's circumstances are similar to that of Worf. A tragic situation in her childhood leads to being adopted and raised by members of an alien race. However, instead of being a rerun of a character archetype, Burnham's circumstances feel fresh. It's the old half-human, half-Vulcan Spock character dynamic turned on its head. The central themes of Discovery are ones that look naturally to our own modern anxieties. This is where the race from Kronos comes in strongly. The Klingons have been reimagined and repurposed as a species longing for cultural coherence and a strong Klingon empire. At first glance, it feels like we are dealing with a version of ISIS or Al-Qaeda, a form of religious fundamentalism, an easy conclusion to draw considering the religious overtones found among this band of Klingons. However, there is a twist. The Klingons are using their religious belicism as a unifying force in their desire for isolationism, racial purity, and superiority over other species. It's like a mix between the forces of Islamic fundamentalism and our own new politics of nationalism. The leader of this band of Klingons, T'Kuvma, contrasts the plight of the Klingon Empire against their enemy, the Federation, a symbol of the multiculturalism that Klingons despise. He uses the Federation as a scapegoat in order to bootstrap Klingon nationalism. The multicultural muck that is the Federation, T'Kuvma argues, is the opposite of the path the Klingons need to take in order to achieve greatness. Make no mistake about it, both the fictional Starfleet officers on screen and the show itself are a defense of multiculturalism. This is a theme that will likely continue to run through the course of the first season. So that's Star Trek Discovery's first 2 episodes. Strong opening, great performances, and a lot of new material to chew on. Fingers crossed that this show rises above our expectations. Thank you for watching. If you like this and other Trekspertise videos, then consider supporting the channel over on Patreon. You can find the link to our Patreon page in the subspace below. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, check out this new installment from my adventures down at the bottom of the world. Enjoy.